Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Kris. This is Born Again Christian Converts to Islam After Reading the Bible. This is part 3. This video is sponsored by a secret person who sponsors the video and just wanted to be left anonymous. Before we get started, click that thumbs up. Bare minimum, please. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Oh, I was like, I'm subscribed to the channel, aren't I? Of course I am. Yeah, I didn't unsubscribe. Okay. Sorry. And then there's the thanks button. You click on there. You donate if you'd like to. Times are tough. I understand. So this is part 3, final 18 minutes. Let's go.
And the earliest complete New Testament we have is the Codex Sinaiticus in the 4th century. Now, Jesus was born in the 1st century. And that's probably about 350 AD. So it's extraordinary. We have virtually, if not all, the Quran from the 1st century Hijra. But of course, that's not how Muslims remembered it. It wasn't a physical book that the Prophet received upon him be peace. It was a recitation. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was written down, but its primary mode of transmission, as still is verbally. Yeah. And so it was memorized in the hearts of millions of people, it still is today, hundreds of thousands at the time of the Prophet. So it can't be changed. I mean, how could you change something that is known by hundreds of thousands? If we go to a mosque now and, during prayer and the imam misspeaks, shall we say, or forgets, immediately people in the congregation will literally speak out and correct him, as they should. Yeah. It's impossible to fabricate it or change it or you forget about it. Which is part of the amazing providence of God. But that's not the case in Christianity. And no one, to my knowledge, has memorized the New Testament. I'm not even sure it's possible. Right. And what that's not the original Bible anyway. That's another subject. So, the Birmingham manuscripts are an incredible evidence of the absolute reliability of the transmission of the Quran in physical form. But as I say, that's not the primary way that it was transmitted. It was through hundreds of thousands of Sahaba, even in the Prophet's own time. Yeah. So it's an extraordinary story.
What's your favorite thing about Allah?
I like the fact that when we pray 5 times a day, and Christians don't know this, in fact, most people don't know this who are not Muslims, we think, well, how do Muslims approach God? How do we see God? How do we understand God? And maybe non-Muslims might think, oh, well, I've heard Christian scholars say this wrongly. Oh, for Muslims, God is a remote, transcendent deity and all this stuff. It's completely wrong. What do we address him twice in Surah Al-Fatiha, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most merciful, the most compassionate. That's found twice in Surah Al-Fatiha, which we must recite as part of our daily prayers. So for us, God is the most merciful, the most compassionate. And this is perfectly in line with what Jesus taught, of course, obviously, and all the prophets. So this sense of the compassion and love of God is so important, I think. And as I say, most non-Muslims don't realize that, I don't think, perhaps, about who the God that we worship. Mm-hmm. That is that emotional connection with God, I think, for me.
What's one of your favorite hadith or verses in the Quran?
The favorite verse of the Quran, I think at the moment has to be the 112th Surah, Surah Al-Ikhlas, which is 4 verses, which speak of God as, to paraphrase it, God is not a trinity. He does not beget. He doesn't have a son. And that on him all things depend, al-samad, this idea, the utter dependency and contingency of creation on God as the uncreated being. And it's an extraordinary chapter, a piece of precision theology, which I think, and the way that the word ahad, one, is found in that surah is exactly the same word we see in the Hebrew in the Shema. The Shema is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one." Yeah. Now this is found in the Torah, Deuteronomy 6, chapter 6, verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Echad in Hebrew is the same word, because Hebrew is a cognate language of Arabic and of Aramaic. Even in the Gospel of Matthew, where I think it's chapter 12, Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And I always ask Christians this question, and they always get it wrong. And I don't mean, I'm not mocking them, but it is so instructive why they get it wrong. So I ask a Christian, what does Jesus say the greatest commandment? And I think there's only one exception. They all say, love your neighbor as yourself. And I say, nope, that's the second one. What's the first one? And they call it and and they don't know. So it's the Shema. Jesus actually repeats the very words given to him. Hear, Israel, the Lord our God is Echad, one. Now this is Tawheed. So we have this remarkable correspondence between Islam, the Gospels, and Judaism, but not just at a level of Aqidah, although it is the case, but the same words are used in the same language almost. Echad, Achad is the same word. So you're able to map in a very precise way the exact continuity between Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them, in a way that is unparalleled. And if Jesus was a Trinitarian, as Christians believe, presumably, this would have been the perfect teaching moment for Jesus to say, well, yes, the Shema, but Shema simply means hear in Hebrew, hear, O Israel. If Jesus was a Trinitarian, then he would have said at that point, well, yes, God is one, but he's also three.
Yes.
God is Father, fully God, the Son is fully God, the Holy Spirit is three God, but somehow they are Echad, one. He doesn't say that.
Right.
So he doesn't say that because he doesn't believe it, because he is a...
Doesn't say worship him, anything.
No, none of that. So this is a direct and indirect confirmation of the Islamic Aqidah, the theology, the creed of what we are to believe about God. And it's found in Surah Ikhlas, the 112th Surah. And this is verbally identical to what Jesus and Moses, peace be upon them all, said as well.
Right.
And this for me is absolute theological confirmation of the truth of Islam in its direct continuity with all the prophets. And this is evidence, is linguistic evidence at the level of the language itself, as well as the Aqidah. So I say this to Christians, and of course, they don't have any answer to that, because what are they going to say? Oh, well, Jesus just forgot to mention it? Or, I mean, this is a teaching moment.
Right.
He doesn't say that. He says what Muslims say, that God is one. So Jesus and Moses and Muhammad all preached Tawheed. And again, another extraordinary confirmation of the truth.
Why should other people learn about Islam?
Well, lots of reasons. From the mundane to the spiritual, they must learn about it because...
I would like to contribute with Bible verses, but I don't know any. Other than I know that Jesus took a fish and made a lot more fishies. But I don't think that's a verse. And then I think Jesus did the water into wine. And I'm pretty sure he invented pulling the rabbit out of a hat. I could be wrong on that one. Yeah. And he did come up with the blueprints for how to moonwalk. I could be wrong on that one too. I'm pretty sure those last two weren't in the Bible though. So I'm wrong.
Islam is the fastest growing religion on the planet. And it matters if we care about the future of humanity, then we must understand what other people believe, even if we don't agree with it. We must make the effort to understand what people actually believe and not what Fox News or whatever tells us is the truth. If we understand what motivates Muslims, we must understand their faith. And that's just on that one level alone. But of course, we must understand Islam because it is, as we believe, the final dispensation to mankind. And it's nothing new. It's the old time religion, as the Americans might say. It's not a new religion. It's as I say, as we've shown, it's the religion of Jesus and Muhammad and all the prophets. So but it's the last universal manifestation of that. And there's no further revelation. That's it. We either understand it and accept it, or the consequences. That's it.
Why should they consider becoming a Muslim?
Why? Well, for lots of reasons, but ultimately to step back for the background to that question, given that God exists as the uncaused cause and creator of all things, existence exists because he has created it. And because he has communicated with us through messages, through prophets, through our fitra, this innate sense that we have of God and morality and so on, that it is incumbent upon us to lend an ear to that, to listen. Why? Because it's in our interests to do so.
Yeah.
Actually, at the end of the day, we're here for a reason. We're not here just to indulge ourselves. So if we want to be in harmony with the purpose of life, we must listen to it. Now, we can choose not to, but there will be consequences. There is no cost-free existence. There are consequences whatever we choose. So it's in our interest to listen to what God has said. And ultimately, inshallah, we will be in paradise and we will see him face to face. And that's an incredible reward.
What's the best form of dawah?
I often find it the easiest thing, this may sound arrogant, but I don't mean it like that. Also, the easiest thing is to win an argument with a Christian, but lose the person. Yeah? I mean, I can bash them over the head with stuff. Yeah? That's relatively easy for me to do, but that's not dawah.
Right.
You're not going to win a person that way. I suppose the first thing to say is to be...
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Because the harder you hit them with information, the more they are recoiling back to their core, their fundamental thinking. You almost have to get them to step out of it. And that's difficult. That's a good point. That is a really good point.
Have some kind of epistemic humility. And again, I'm speaking to myself, to realize that it's God who changes hearts. It's not me. It's not my job to convert anyone. It's not my job to persuade anyone. It's not my job to make that person a Muslim. I mean, as the Quran constantly reminds the Prophet, you've been only sent as a warner, not to convert people.
Right.
And it's God who changes hearts. Now, that is true of the Prophet. How much, who am I compared to him? So, my job is clear, and that is just to share or convey Islam and leave the rest to God. But do it in a way, someone like Hamza Zortzis, for example, of our era and the Sapiens Institute, an English Muslim, who's very, very good on this. And he's learned from his mistakes, as he said, is that, you've got to be very aware of who you're talking to. You've got to befriend them. You've got to care about them. They're not just an object to defeat or argue with or win the argument. Buy them a pizza, take an interest in their lives, care about them, and share Islam. But it's not about winning arguments. And I think because of my experience of Speaker's Corner in London, I often fall into that trap. I'm at my best when I'm not falling into that trap, but I have fallen into that trap where I go in there like some kind of dawah warrior and you defeat the enemy. But, it's very entertaining on YouTube, perhaps, but it's certainly not dawah.
Yeah.
It's certainly not the sunnah of the Prophet, of course.
Right.
And he did dawah in very, very interesting ways, both verbally and non-verbally. And non-verbal dawah is good, caring for people.
So there's some talk about King Charles possibly becoming a Muslim. How true is that?
I think there's some truth in it, and there's a falsity about it. So when he became king, which was upon the death of his mother, actually, as soon as Queen died, he instantly became king as the successor. I actually did a video about him and his interest in Islam on Blogging Theology, and it got a huge number of hits because there's an awful lot of actual proof that over the years he's taken a deep interest in Islam. He has a very acute and intelligent understanding of Islam. And the way he speaks of it, you don't. I didn't get the impression at all that that for him, Islam was some kind of external thing that is unrelated to himself. He clearly understands it deeply in a very personal way. Now, so in that sense, I think he has a profound grasp of Islam, and in some sense, I suspect, identifies with it. But, and that this is where the falsity comes in, to my knowledge, I don't know him obviously, but he hasn't said his Shahada, and that he takes his Christian responsibilities as the head of the Church of England in England very seriously. Mm-hmm. So I think he is like a fellow traveller within the Church, someone who identifies profoundly with Islam, particularly in its Sufi form, without having said his Shahada. Now, as to what his own personal beliefs are about, say, Jesus and upon Muhammad, I don't know, but I suspect he's very close. But I've not seen any evidence he actually has become a Muslim in the sense of saying his Shahada. But he is in a very unique position, obviously, and I think I would certainly trust him to represent Islam accurately and faithfully in conversations. I get the sense he's very well informed and sympathetic, but I don't think he's crossed over the line. But I could be wrong. Maybe privately he has. Right. But I just don't know. See, he has his public role as a constitutional monarch, and his responsibility is his job, if you like. Right. And he has to do what it entails. And part of the monarch's role is as head of the church, because we're not officially a secular country, the UK, unlike this place, because America. So our head of state is officially a Christian, constitutionally. So his job has those responsibilities, but privately, who knows? But I wouldn't be surprised. But to my knowledge, there can be no public knowledge of that. It would be a secret. Right. On the day of judgment, we will find out.
That's a tough thing. If he is the head of the church, that is a tough. That is a tough sell. Because if he wants to be and people found out, could he continue to be the head of the church? If he really wants to be, I wish this thing would stop doing this. This really just annoys me. If he wanted to be, would he have to step down? He could do it in private. There's nothing stopping him from doing it in private, and then just staying private with it. But yeah, he's in a dilemma.
Sure, yeah.
If you had a minute to tell the world about Islam, what would you say?
Well, I'm not sure the world exists. I want to talk to people, and people are different. So how I would talk to a 16-year-old lad compared to, say, a 50-year-old, Harvard graduate, compared to someone who couldn't read and write, compared to, a sister. The world is an abstraction, and I really want to personalize it. Which means, so in the books I recommend, so people often say to me, Paul, what do you recommend? And I'm thinking, well, it all depends, actually. So, Guy Eaton, this writer I mentioned, this English writer, I would only recommend him to certain people, with a certain background. Mm-hmm. Other people, I recommend other kinds of things, right. Or maybe a YouTube video. So I really want to tailor it and personalize it. Otherwise, there are slogans or there are abstractions I can share with you. Believe in one God. And this is all true, but I might want to connect that with where you are at. So if you're a Christian, for example, I would say, well, the oneness of God means this. It means Tawheed, not Trinitarianism. Mm. If you're an atheist, I would say something different. I would talk about God as the source of all existence, as the meaning and purpose of our lives, and how it's native to our species to believe in the divine. And there's scientific evidence for that. It's intrinsic to children to believe. It's not something that's imposed on people by their parents. Right. So it would depend on who I was speaking to. So I'm kind of wary of mega narratives in that way.
What do most non-Muslims misunderstand about Islam?
Well, again, that's a big question depending on their background. But I can see in from a Western point of view. I can't speak about how non-Muslims say in Thailand or Peru. I don't know,
Right.
but in the West, they don't understand the spiritual reality of Islam. They see the external media mediated images of angry Muslims, for example. They may see the rage, but they don't understand the cause of it, the dispossession, the powerlessness, the injustice.
I see a lot of ISIS, any kind of religious religious fundamentalists. Is that right? That doesn't sound right. How about religious fanatics who attack a place, kill innocent people? You see that as a reminder of how bad it is, how bad the religion is, and how violent it is. And then with the same breath, told that, well, Muslims in America aren't like that. You just got to keep an eye on them. And it's like, just say you don't trust them. That's all you got to say. Just say you don't trust them. No. You can't trust them over there, But we have good Muslims here. We just keep an eye on them. What does that mean? I always hear the negative because that is the narrative that they want to sell. So some people buy into that. Or I can think of one person that I work around that Charlie Kirk was shot is probably a Muslim. No. If there's a bomb that goes off in China, probably a Chinese Muslim. Right. So, but is that person, is it their fault? No. Maybe it is. But they're also fed a lot of garbage. And unfortunately, that is a narrative. And after a while, if you believe that narrative, then you believe anything and everything about the negative aspects about the religion.
But Islam, as a faith, if I can speak in those terms, is they don't see the spiritual reality behind it, the depth, the beauty, of it. They don't see that. That may not be their fault. They may not have encountered Muslims, and certainly not the truth about Islam from the media. So they will be judged according to what they know, the light they have, rather than what they don't know. I mean, Al-Ghazali spoke of things like that. What happens to non-Muslims on the Day of Judgment who've never heard about Islam? Well, they'll be judged by the light they have, but no injustice will be done to them. The Quran's very clear on that. Everyone will be treated with perfect justice. No one will be treated unjustly.
If you could ask Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam anything, what would it be?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I have to think about that one. I have to pass on that. I would have to think carefully about that. If it was just one question, I had to think very, very carefully. What would you? What would be your? You tell me what you would think.
So I wanted to know what was he thinking about and how was he worshiping Allah in the cave?
Well, that's interesting. Yes, of course. Yes. What was it like? Yeah.
I would want to know when you were first visited by Gabriel, was the visit were you overcome with dread? Were you kind of given a calm, like, hey, you don't have to worry? Was there, when you were given the the information, did you feel like you weren't worthy? Did you feel like, why me? And what made you not run away from everything in that moment? Because if you put me in that situation and an angel visits me, I'm scared. Even though it's an angel. But how do I know it's an angel? How do I know it's not a demon trying to convince me? But let's say I do believe it's an angel. What makes me think that I have this ability to be this, not a leader, but to inspire people to forget everything that they've ever known about worshiping and idols and gods, to believe me and this new ideology that was given to me through an angel from God, the one and only. That's a big ask. And there's a fear. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? Why are you trusting me? Why are you picking me? The fear of, I don't think I can do this. This is a tremendous task. I think I would run away from it. I wouldn't feel good enough. Like I'm not, you didn't mean, you didn't mean Kris Stanton. You meant a different Kris. You know what it is? You used GPS and you came to the wrong house. You tell me who you're looking for. I'll help you find them. Apparently they might be in the area, because you certainly don't mean me. I would have complete fear that you can't mean me.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Okay, think of this scenario. It's the day of judgment. What would you hope your meeting with Allah would be like?
Yes, yeah, I'm quite clear about that. I very much hope, inshallah, that Allah will view me with mercy and compassion, because that's the only thing that will get me into paradise, nothing else. So yeah, inshallah, I hope to meet a God of compassion and mercy. They catalogued it, and that's.
How did I bounce backwards? Okay. Yeah.
Scenario.
No. Yeah. What do you want? The day of judgment. What are you not expecting, but what are you hoping for? I know what I would say, but if I say it, I'll cry. I can feel the words, and I can feel the tears. Yeah, I can't say it. I'm gonna end it because I'm gonna start to cry. So, Yeah, this is really good. I've never seen this channel, but this is good. So I'm going to end it here. Till next time, have a good day. Have a good night.